call the meeting to order, please. I should like a motion, please, to adopt the agenda. Blanchette and Torgerson. Oh, yes, yeah. We have item 12.1 to add, as well as the... okay. Oh, this is the Building Canada Fund for Small Communities Fund grant application. Do I have to read it all?
No, just the title.
Just okay. Because I see there's lots here. So, and everyone on council has a copy of this. All right, so this is going to be added to the agenda, and I don't know if this is to be added as well.
Yes, please.
The
no.
No? Okay.
That's just for your information.
Okay, that's for information purposes only. So a motion, please, to adopt the agenda, including the new item.
How about this? This should be added. This is the request to discuss
Okay.
electronic participation.
The electronic participation, okay. So we're going to, all right, we've also got another agenda item, which is electronic participation at upcoming Valemount Community Forest meeting.
Correct.
Okay, so that's another agenda item to be added to...
12.2.
12.2 is fine. Okay. Good. So we have, yes, Councillor Torgerson.
Just one small proofread in the agenda, staff reports, the monthly from the EDO. His ICSP report was not dated 2015 December. We actually did receive it 2014.
We haven't had December 2015.
No, not yet. It's coming.
Okay. Okay. So that's amended then. Okay. Any further additions? Councillors, do you have anything further you want to add? Okay, all in favor then? Carried. All right. Adoption of the minutes of the January 27, 2015 regular meeting.
Excuse myself.
Okay.
You can call me back after.
Okay. That's Councillor Reimer is leaving.
Reason?
Yes, we do need to know. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Councillor, please close the door.
Yes.
Okay. So you have it noted then that Councillor Reimer has excused himself to a perceived conflict of interest.
Exactly, and the reason.
Okay.
And the time.
Yes.
Make sure you know.
It's what, 7:04?
That's what it looks like.
Okay. So I should like a motion, please, that council adopts the minutes of the January 27th, 2015 regular meeting of council. Blanchette and Salt. Are there any errors or omissions? Looks like Councillor Salt found something.
Sorry, I'm not going to worry about the non-major items, but there is, where there's a resolution number missing, when we move to go in camera, we're missing a resolution, so then it's going to throw out the rest of the numbering.
Okay. Anything, Councillor Torgerson or Blanchette?
Thank you, that's really strange.
It's
Okay.
funny software.
So if there are no further amendments, no corrections further, nor errors, the adoption of the minutes of the January 27th, 2015 regular meeting of council as amended. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes of the public hearing held in the Village Council chambers on Tuesday, January 27, 2015. And we have an amendment here as well in terms of the letter from Yellowhead Realty that was not read. So we amend that then to include it and write a letter to Mr. Peterson and apologizing. We don't need a separate motion for that, do we? No, okay.
But it was accepted? It was a written...
It was in the, it was inadvertently put into the regular
Thank
council
you.
agenda. You did all see it.
Yes.
It just wasn't part of the public hearing.
It wasn't part of the
Thank you.
public hearing and it should have been read into the hearing.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So Then the council adopts the minutes of the public hearing as amended to include the letter from Mr. Peterson, held in the Village of Valemount Council Chambers on Tuesday, January 27 at 6:45 p.m. Anything further? All in favor? Carried.
Excuse me.
We should let Councillor Reimer in now.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Gordon.
Thanks, Gord.
Is your agenda?
Yeah, it's confusing up for me. I'm just loading it back up. Darn technology.
That's why I ask for a paper agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
I have it back.
Correspondence for action, item 6.1, Columbia Basin Institute of Regional History Corporate Membership Renewal. Could I have a motion from council, please, if you choose to renew it? Councillor Blanchette?
I thought we were just gonna put it on the table for discussion.
To receive?
It's a recommendation that we just,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And you can discuss it under the motion.
Okay.
Okay? So moved by Councillor Blanchette, seconded by Councillor Torgerson, that the corporate membership be renewed. And now discussion.
So this is something that we do every year? I don't think it's something that we've done every year.
I was wondering when the last time was.
Because it's only an online program. There's a lot of people that, in the village, that couldn't access that. So I'm just wondering if we're in the beginning of our month, that $200 would have to come out of our miscellaneous fund. Do we want to renew it that way or wait?
We haven't had a membership for a number of years. I don't know how long.
They don't indicate that here either. They just say, in the past, the Village of Valemount.
And it's not even our school district either. It's District 2 of Cranbrook and School District 1 Fernie. So
I believe it's a different school district probably every year. It's up to council. Any further discussion? Any more questions? Councillor Salt?
I think I'd rather see us direct these kind of funds directly to our own historic society or other organization in our community that works on restoring history of our community.
Okay. Are you ready for the question then? All in favor? Opposed? That's defeated. Robson Valley Support Society, a request to appoint a council member as a representative to the Board of Directors of the Robson Valley Support Society. What is council's wish? Do you want to take any action on this?
I wouldn't mind being appointed to that board. It goes with all of the other things that I'm doing.
All right.
I wholeheartedly support Councillor Blanchette and her...
Moved by Councillor Torgerson and seconded by Councillor Salt that Councillor Blanchette be appointed. Thank you, Councillor Blanchette.
Question?
Yes, question. All in favor? Carried.
And you wanted a holiday.
She wanted a holiday, that's right. 6.3, Valemount Pines Golf Club application referral by the BC Liquor Control and Licensing Branch. Move the staff recommendation that council indicate by resolution that the Village of Valemount has no concerns with the proposed changes in their liquor license for the Valemount Pines Golf Club. Moved by Councillor Blanchette and seconded by Councillor Salt that they be advised that council has no concerns. Any discussion, questions? All in favor? Carried. Letter regarding water and sewer utility billing for property located at 400 Ash Street, Valemount. What does council wish to do? Do you want to make a motion to receive to discuss this first, or?
I'll make a motion to.
Okay.
See if I can discuss it.
Okay, moved by Councillor Reimer and seconded by Councillor Blanchette that this be received for discussion. What is council's, yes, Councillor Reimer, you wanted to say something here, or anybody else? Questions of the staff?
Well, the report that goes along with it doesn't deal with the vacancy issue. That is a vacant lot that doesn't have a building on it. It only goes to 5.2, and it's 5.3 in both the water and the sewer bylaws that kind of would suggest that a property that doesn't have any buildings would be subject to the water and the sewer utility fee, even though there aren't any hookups to that particular lot. And so based on that, I think that we should look at it and look at amending our bylaws. So that we're not doing that. It's if we're going to adopt the philosophy and the policy that the user should pay, then it seems to me it's only fair that if a property owner has no building on the lot, either commercial or residential, to use water or sewer, then they are the user and they shouldn't be paying. They pay taxes on the lot, and I think we should be able to live with that. I think the other thing is charging utilities on empty lots is putting us in somewhat of an uncompetitive situation. For example, why would anybody want to develop any number of lots, pay to put the sewer and water lines into the ground because a developer ultimately pays the cost of the infrastructure, and then pay for each lot on top of that until the lots sell? That's kind of punitive, and it really doesn't encourage any development.
Okay. Anything further, councillors?
I believe
Blanchette?
previous council, didn't we decide to install that fee because we were trying to put money away for infrastructure? Am I correct, or?
Yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
There's a few reasons. One of the primary reasons was to build reserves for infrastructure replacement. Absolutely. The pipe that is in front of any particular property is deemed to be the responsibility of, I mean, having said that, that's a really broad generalization, but there are other advantages to this. The infrastructure needs to be maintained for fire suppression purposes, and the intent is also to help encourage development, whereas the landowner gains a significant advantage in increased property value by having that infrastructure in front of their property.
Did we set in motion a lower fee if the land was vacant, or did we not?
Yes, it is only half.
Okay.
Any further questions? Councillor Torgerson?
I have a comment only, if it pleases you. Mr. Peterson's letter suggests that while he has, or his company has, placed a lot of development in the area, in a monetary sense, spent loads. I would argue that there are several companies in the valley that have put in millions in infrastructure, and that they are still required to pay licensing fees, inspection fees by government. They're also paid perhaps have to pay a maintenance fee on said properties that they hold as well. And so while we charge 50%, I feel it's fair that there is fire suppression at those locations. And that sooner or later, those particular pieces of infrastructure will need to be replaced, with or without development.
Is the development of infrastructure not paid for by the developer in the first place in DCCs?
When the infrastructure goes out
Yes.
to a new area, yes.
Yes.
In this particular instance, infrastructure goes past a vacant piece to further developed pieces.
Okay. Because I recall when sewer was taken from 14th Avenue to where the Best Western is built, that was shared by the developer, as well as the owner of the land, and 1/3 the village. But since then, the village has collected well over $1 million in taxes from that development out there. And our public works superintendent had the qualifications to supervise the project, which was also over-supervised by the engineer from Urban Systems. And it saved the village, I recall, $60,000. So those of us on Cranberry Place and 17th Avenue who were not connected to sewer, we paid the connection fees. And since then, we've been paying the utility bills as well. Perhaps if council wishes, if you vote to look at this again, I gave Mr. Young my thought this afternoon is, as a taxpayer of the province of British Columbia, my taxes, a portion of them go to pay for BC Hydro transmission lines and distribution lines, and it could go right past my house. But if I'm not connected to power, I don't pay any bills. So it's an observation of mine.
It's a good observation.
Okay. But if they only pay half, does Mr. Peterson realize he's only being billed for half?
I'm not sure, he may not.
Okay. Has anyone spoken with him after receipt of this letter?
We've had several conversations with him.
Yes, Councillor Reimer.
Madam Chair, personally, even though it's half, I think your analogy is a good one, that even if the hydro line passes by my property, if that hydro line is not connected to something on my property and I'm not using anything, I'm not paying for that service. And I think that same analogy should be applied to water and sewer on vacant land. If there's no building there for that utility to be used, then whether it's half of the going rate or whatever, it still should not be collected.
Okay. Councillor Salt, do you have any remarks before I make a suggestion?
I'm wondering if this is common practice in more municipalities than just Valemount. Perhaps that would help alleviate some of the concerns or questions. And if this is something that's common practice in other municipalities throughout BC, then maybe we just need to find that out and confirm that, if that's going to help this council.
Well, we can...
I believe that's why 709 and 710 were passed, because it was benchmarked to other communities.
Does council want to refer this to the Public Works Committee, that they can sit down with the administration and come up with a recommendation to council? And find out what other municipalities do this as well? It'll help administration to respond to Mr. Peterson as well. Councillor Torgerson.
May I put a motion to the floor that we refer this to staff, see the budget implications over the long term, that should we revisit this bylaw, we will be needing more information to see what these halves or 100% payloads are doing for a replacement value, and that we refer this to said meeting for Public Works Committee, so that we can sit down with the Finance Department, we can sit down with Public Works, we can sit down with potential developers and get a roundabout sense on how we can move ahead together, being fiscally responsible for the long term.
Okay. Councillor Reimer, I saw you putting your hand up.
I believe there is a motion on the floor.
Yes, I know. I'm just listening. That's still discussion. He's going to make the motion after me. That's right.
There's my motion.
Yes, well, we'll wait for you to change that into a motion as soon as we deal with the receipt of this.
Thank you.
Okay. And it was a motion to
Receive for discussion.
receive for discussion. All in favor of receipt? Carried? Okay, Councillor Torgerson. No, just
Mr. Young, would you like to?
he will abbreviate it.
That we refer this to staff for the financial implications, budget implications, bring that said information to the next meeting of the Public Works Committee, so that we may review the long-term implications, and perhaps a suggestion that may come to that from that meeting is that we revisit this bylaw.
Okay. Okay, seconder? Councillor Reimer. Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Valemount Historic Society. I'm going to ask for a motion to receive this for discussion before we go on to the staff recommendation. Councillor Blanchette and Councillor Salt. Okay. Councillor Salt, do you want to speak to this first?
Yes, Your Worship. I just wanted to clarify, there is a paragraph in here that doesn't quite relay what my email said. It indicated that the Village of Valemount will not be contributing any funds towards this very necessary restoration. I said it would have to be approved by all of council.
Okay.
So it was that it had been set aside or promised by staff. Staff didn't have the authority to do that on their own, and then it would have to go to all of council to approve. And in the meantime, I have also discovered that this money had been listed as a contribution by the village on grant applications. So essentially, we pretty much have to commit those funds if it's been listed.
Okay. Do you want to explain clearly to Councillors Torgerson and Reimer and Blanchette what or how this originated? And you can be brief, I know. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly how it all originated because some of this has been over the years, the need for this work. So the exterior of the museum has been falling into much disrepair and needing work done, substantial enough that we've had to go after some grant funding to try and get it done. But there still is a slight shortfall, and so the Historic Society have, said they will actually contribute some of their own funds, which is hard work for them, like any nonprofit organization, to try and raise funds. And they were under the belief and understanding that the village had committed the funds as well, matching funds. So there had been a lot of miscommunication and misunderstanding. So we're just trying to resolve this misunderstanding once and for all, and try and get this project. It has to be done this spring. That's right.
So we need to get this resolved so they can line up contractors to get the work done.
Yeah. Okay, any questions? To set everything straight, that building was assumed by the village of Valemount in the 80s sometime. I don't remember what year. But I do know that that building belongs to the Village of Valemount, and so does that property. The Village of Valemount is responsible for the maintenance, repair, and upkeep of the building. It's been neglected for several years. The Regional District of Fraser Fort George provides the operating funds, 30-some thousand a year. And it has been neglected, and now there is structural problems as well because of the neglect. So somehow or other it's going to have to be included in the budget this year, and it needs to be rectified. So if there's no further discussion under receipt, are you ready to make a motion, Councillor Salt? Okay, all in favor of receipt? Carried. Go ahead.
I move that the Village of Valemount contribute $1,000 towards the grant applications as specified to have this restoration work on the museum completed.
Okay, moved by Councillor Salt and seconded by Councillor Blanchette that the village commits the $1,000 to the community chest application. It says here you have committed $1,377 rather than just $1,000.
Was that not
The Heritage BC application, you have committed $1,000 from the Village of Valemount, and in the community chest application, you have committed $1,377.
from the Historic Society?
Okay. All right, so this will all be sorted out, and it is understood now that the village is responsible for the repairs and maintenance of the building. Okay. All in favor of the, yes?
Could I clarify one question there?
One.
The $1,000 that was originally promised for this grant was in order to meet the matching, and that was to be taken out of the the $2,000 that we budget annually for operational upkeep. Is that still to come out of that same fund?
I don't know. Ask who was looking after it this last year? Anybody in the village?
What do you mean looking after?
The $1,000 that you're just talking about now is, if the building requires $3,000 maintenance and upkeep, are you saying then that there is only $2,000 available?
Correct. We budget $2,000 per building per year.
Okay. Well, was there $2,000 used up every year for the last 3 years?
No.
Where did that $2,000 go?
It does not carry over. It goes back into...
Okay. Former Councillor Tier thought that there had been a resolution made when she was still on council that it be left into a reserve account for maintenance. Was she incorrect?
She was. I went back through minutes and there was no
And you couldn't find it?
resolution.
Okay.
The only way you can establish a reserve fund is by a bylaw, not through a resolution.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that this year will require more than $2,000 to remedy what has not been done for the last several years, what has been ignored, and I think Councillor Salt is aware of that. And I have attended 2 meetings as well.
Could we
So,
put forth the whole $2,000, so then they'd have over 3,000?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that would be sufficient.
We haven't had our budget meetings yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to promise, but I mean,
So we really don't know how much it's really gonna cost.
Can I make one more comment?
Yes.
I'd like to keep some operational money for annual maintenance for the museum in case something...
Okay, what do you mean by operational money? Because
These are
their operating funds are received from the regional district.
Just operational maintenance as opposed to capitalized
Okay,
maintenance.
okay.
Whereas the exterior is going to be capitalized.
Yes, okay.
So that's the difference.
I just feel that that building belongs to the Village of Valemount, and it has to be maintained properly. Otherwise, it costs twice as much to repair something if it's not done when needed. And yes,
so I am aware of another repair that they're in need of, and that's with their screen door. So where would that fall under? Would that not fall under the repairs and maintenance budget.
Exactly, exactly, so. And they are also applying for another grant, right?
For this exterior,
That's correct, so then with 3 grants, that should be sufficient.
between what we're giving these two here
And what they're applying for.
and what they're applying for.
It needs to be understood that the Village of Valemount is not doing the Historic Society a favor by maintaining that building. It is an obligation because that building belongs to the Village of Valemount. Okay, yes. Were you going to say something, Councillor Reimer?
Well, I think we should at least get the $1,000 out of the way and then look at what the future needs are.
Yes. Okay.
That place should be attracting people to spend extra time in our community, and it should be something that we can promote to tourists, as well as any other visitors that just weren't aware of the history of this area. And we have an obligation to look after that, and let's do it. Well,
Yes.
it's got to be in our general budget like that.
There was, I didn't save it for here, out of their guest book, someone from, was it Afghanistan? It doesn't matter. It was from somewhere over in the Middle East, and how impressed they were by visiting the museum here. And they have many such guests as well. And if one looks at the Historic Society board members, most of them have, some of them went to school here as youngsters, and the history of a municipality is a foundation. It's stability when history is put together like it is in our museum. Yeah, so many of the board members, their fathers worked on that building. So anyway, all right, we have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded, and if there's no further discussion, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Yes, yes.
Which fund will the $1,000 be coming out of? That's my question.
That was out of the one that's,
The $2,000 repairs and maintenance?
yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so Councillor Salt, you can take that back to the next board meeting and tell them that it's been looked after. Okay?
I'm sure we'll get a letter before the next meeting.
Thank you. And 6.6, what is council's wish?
Do we have a member that wishes to be on the Bureau Board?
Councillor Torgerson, did you want to say something? It's not within the village limits.
Oh, okay.
That was going to be my comment. While they do promote the village in their day-to-day ongoings of Eora, it is really in the regional district that most of their promotions,
Yes.
maintenance, usage is generally found. My comment only.
Okay, were you going to make a motion to refer it to?
I would like to see if perhaps Area H Director Daniel Allen would care to join the board of Eora.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so do you want to make that into a motion?
Certainly.
Okay, and a seconder? Councillor Blanchette, that the Eora request for council representative be referred to Daniel Allen, the Area H Regional District Director, because it's all in her land area. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. The Valemount Learning Centre, a request for letter of support. What is council's wish? There's a staff recommendation here.
To give the letter of support.
And this is for the Community Initiatives and Affected Areas Grant Program.
I have a question.
Yes?
This is a letter of support for its grant application
That's correct.
that we oversee. I find it, I'll make a motion
Yes, okay.
if it's,
Go ahead.
that we support in principle the Valemount Youth Center. However, I cannot make that motion to support a grant application that we administer.
We have many applicants, and we cannot support one over another.
Have we given out any letters of support to this date?
I don't
This
know, but
year's-
to the best of my knowledge, it was never done previously.
Do you remember if it has been done?
Might have been some in the past. I think there might have been one last year.
Well, this
I
is
know-
this
I
year.
know-
All right, this is
I
this year.
believe there was letters of support for grants that we don't administer.
It was because it was in one of the village buildings, that's what it was.
Okay.
That's why they
So
asked
then-
for, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I totally
Yes.
support the Valemount
idea.
Youth Center, the
Yes.
idea, the premise. But I think it's unethical that we
There are many
support a
other
grant
applicants,
application
so,
from
yes.
one association to another.
Okay. So we have a motion by Councillor Torgerson that the Village of Valemount support a Valemount Youth Center in principle. And I need a seconder, Councillor Blanchette. Okay. But it would be incorrect to support one applicant over another. I agree. Okay. Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Carried. The reading file. Councillor Blanchette's work here. 7-1. Did you want to add anything further?
I'm not really. I'm working on the toolkit right now. Valemount's actually a pilot project. They've never done this program in a rural setting. So I'm going through the document and we're tweaking it for a rural setting. So it's exciting and scary all at the same time.
Okay.
That's,
We don't need a motion to receive that, do we? Okay. Fire management, OBAC. I brought this from the Omanika Beetle Action Coalition. There was a presentation made. It was an excellent presentation, and I wanted council to share it because there's a lot of information here. So I gave it to Mr. Young, and he included it in the agenda for your information. Is there anything that council wishes to bring forward for any action, or is just, okay. We'll go on to administrative reports then. Ambulance service in Valemount report. We have a staff recommendation that council receive the ambulance services in Valemount report for information and approve staff to develop policy to allow for staff to be on call for BC ambulance service while at work, dependent on the position and management approval. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Blanchette and Councillor Reimer. Okay. And it's open for discussion.
I believe John Olson was always on ambulance standby.
Yes.
And what he would do if it cut into his work time, where he would, where he normally should have been at school or would have been at school, he simply donated that part of what he was getting back into the coffers for
For the school.
projects.
Okay. Good.
and I know that my daughter is a paramedic and she works at the Best Western and they do let her leave, as long as there's coverage.
Okay.
But we need to have it. I mean,
Yes.
they make $2 an hour.
Yeah, we have a
When they're on
staff person
call.
here. Do we have a staff person here on BC Ambulance Service?
We do have one right now.
Okay, so you are looking for council's approval to establish a policy within the village of Valemount? Okay. Does council have any comments?
Two of the largest employers in the valley have adopted said policy. One has an agreement with the union that supports their workers, that should the need arise, they, as a first responder, they may respond. The other one is a management agreement with their staff based on availability and job description, that if they can be replaced, they may respond.
Okay. Any further comments or directions for the administrator? None? Are you ready for the question then? All in favor? Carried. Universal water metering report. Staff recommendation that council approves the universal metering plan. The plan developed by Diameter Services as presented. The entire plan. What's council's wish?
Am I reading this right, that if we approve this, that we are also approving Diameter Services in purchasing materials and equipment for future installation right now?
No, not at all.
So that has nothing to do with their implementation report?
That's correct.
Okay, so what is council approving then, specifically?
The study that Diameter Services has done regarding costs.
Okay, so I saw something like $700 and some thousand. Is that the cost?
Add 20%.
Add 20% to that?
Contingencies, unknowns,
Holy smokes.
carpentry.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion as long as we are only approving
Approving or receiving the report? Which is,
Are we receiving it and approving that we approve the universal metering plan? That's what the...
just the plan, but we are not approving the adoption of it.
We're not approving the adoption.
Okay.
So we're...
Okay,
Not the implementation, of just approving the plan
all right.
for perhaps future
Okay.
implementation.
If there's anything further council has as questions? Yes?
Still need a motion.
I thought that we, didn't we have a motion to
We have.
do this? Councillor Reimer and,
Councillor Reimer only.
oh, okay, a seconder, Torgerson. Any further, did you have something you wanted to say, Madam Administrator?
I just wanted to confirm that there are a couple of more studies that are going to be required before we would actually move to metering. So that will provide further information for council at that point.
Yes, did you have anything further that you wanted to ask? No? If there's no further questions, all in favor? Carried. Occupational health and safety report. We have a staff recommendation that council rescind health and safety policy number 2, 2011, and replace it with occupational health and safety policy number 2, 2015. Motion, please. Blanchette and Salt. And it's open for discussion. Councillor Torgerson?
I think a huge, under the OHS Policy 2, 2015, I think included in the workers' responsibilities, first and foremost, is their right to refuse unsafe work. That goes with WorkSafe BC, that goes with a lot of on-site training. I think as an employer, we should inform them that their very first right when coming to the job site is to refuse unsafe work. Now, while it is in the second, learning and following the safe work procedures, we have to remember the onus is on them, but we should highlight that should they see an unsafe practice or be asked to perform an unsafe practice, that it is their first right to refuse said unsafe practice.
Okay, did you have anything further to add?
Could I ask Councillor Torgerson that you frame it as their responsibility
Yes.
to refuse unsafe?
It is their responsibility.
Exactly.
But if we're going to adopt a policy, we should highlight that.
Anything further? Do you have any confirmation that you require for anything? No?
Not this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, all in favor? Carried. Director of Finance, Accounts Payable Monthly Report for January. The recommendation from staff is that council received the January 2015 Accounts Payable Report for information purposes. Motion, Blanchette and Torgerson. Okay. Any discussion, any questions?
Is this typical? Is this a typical monthly expenditure for January, $107,000? Is this higher than average, lower than average?
I can't tell you January to January, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can get you that
I mean,
information.
obviously, we're going to have higher costs in the winter, heat, hot water, things like that. I was curious.
All you have to do is look at CanWest Propane, $2,800.
Just received one in December for $3,600.
Okay. Are there any further questions of the administrator? No, hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Item 9.1, monthly staff report for January 2015. Recommendation that council accepts the staff report and receives the Tourism Valemount January 13, 2015 meeting minutes and draft February 3, 2015 meeting minutes for information purposes. Could I have a motion, please? Blanchette and Reimer. And it's open for discussion. Questions? Yes?
I would like to encourage our citizens to read this, and it gives you a full view of what's going on in our village, who's doing what. It's fantastic. The report is really, really good. Very informative.
Okay. Anything further? Hearing none? Yes?
Yes, please. What is Strategy 14 Explore KMC strategies? What's this? I understand we had Your Worship, you had a meeting at the regional level regarding Kinder Morgan Canada. What is their stance?
We
Was
have-
that ever?
It's upcoming.
Okay, pardon me.
Okay, it hasn't been held yet, but I do know that this Thursday, sometime after 2 o'clock, the Regional District Fraser Fort George Board meeting, they will be making a presentation.
Kinder Morgan.
Kinder Morgan will,
Very good.
yes, as well as the Trans-Canada Pipeline Corporation. So that, and at Regional District Board meetings, public presentations are always made after 2 o'clock, not before, okay? So I can bring you back some information after the board meeting. But ours, Madam Administrator, do you know when it's going to be? With Kinder Morgan? Have they given you a date?
I can't say anything right now.
Okay,
That will be coming up shortly.
okay, good. All right. So that is, pardon? Have a motion to adopt this, please. The monthly staff report. Blanchette and Salt.
Blanchette and Reimer.
Blanchette and Reimer? Oh, they've already done that. I thought you said we needed one.
No, you just need to call the question.
I was going to do that. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Bylaws and policy, Village of Valemount Council Remuneration Bylaw number 736, 2015. The staff recommendation is that council gives final reading to the Village of Valemount Council Remuneration Bylaw number 736.
Councillor Salt, and Councillor Blanchette. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favour? Carried. Council reports. Did I do it ante?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start with Blanchette.
January 28th, I had a meeting with our Health Services Administrator, Kelty Carmichael, and the Healthy Communities Committee is giving the breakfast program $2,000 towards their program at the high school. Then on February 2nd, we met with Lucas DeHaro from Sorgenti about the IPPs. That was quite informative for those of us who don't know everything that's going on. February 3rd, I had a teleconference it was a Directors Northern Medical Programs Trust meeting. We're trying to get ready for our AGM at NCLGA. And February 4th, I had another Better at Home meeting, and that program is working really well. It's chugging along, and we're hoping to be up and running the first section in April.
Thank you.
So, that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Reimer.
Sorry I missed the last council meeting, but since the last council meeting that I was at, which was on the 13th of January, my learning curve has been to attend VCTV board meeting on January 14th, which seems as soon as a new director gets appointed, the current one leaves, which is perhaps musical chairs or theatrical performance. Also attended a crash course on January 14th with the VCF president, Valemount Community Forest, followed up by a January 15th course with the manager of Valemount Community Forest. Owen and I both were at that one. And being introduced to all those new things, I suddenly got walloped by a cold which put me out for the next week. Then I was away working the week of the 26th of January. Believe me, I wasn't on holidays. However, always mindful of the role as an ambassador for this community, elected or otherwise. Back to Valemount, Valemount Community Forest Board meeting on Tuesday the 3rd, followed by another VCTV meeting that evening. On February 4th through the 6th, drove to Prince George, had company in my vehicle.
Good company, right?
Excellent company. Excellent company, yeah. Backseat driver included.
Backseat driver included?
NCLGLA, everything we always want to know about being in local government, and then some. Excellent presentations, and all the presenters were both knowledgeable and skillful. That's my summary.
Thank you, Councillor Reimer.
Let me give that to...
Give that to,
Thank you.
Oh, well,
there you go, even,
Thank you very much.
welcome.
yes.
Save on the pencil.
So Councillor Salt.
I also attended the meeting with Sorgente on Monday the 2nd. Very interesting as well, and learned a lot more about that organization, so I was glad to attend that meeting and learn more. On Tuesday the 3rd, I attended the Valemount Historic Society AGM, and I think we have all the same board members and a new one, so good there that we're getting some more interest on that board. And thanks to the hard work of those people, that they are very dedicated to Valemount and the history of Valemount. And a lot of them are long timers, so. And then I also, unfortunately, I wasn't part of the good company in Councillor Reimer's vehicle. I had to take my own due to work restraints and everything, but I also went off to Prince George and attended the NCLGA, LGLA elected officials seminars, and it doesn't matter. It's always good to get some refreshers. You catch new things, the networking with other councillors and mayors, you learn, tips and tricks that are working, what they're doing. I came back with some very interesting information, and I thought, I'm going to try and apply that. So always, it's always a good thing to go to. You can never hear it too many times or think that you know it all, because you don't. So, and I'm here today. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Torgerson.
Oh, February 2nd, along with all of us, I received a debrief by Surgeon Day on advancing potential projects in the valley. Following day on the 3rd, I attended a Tourism Valemount budget meeting, followed by their regular meeting, followed by a Valemount Community Forest meeting to discuss strategies, all of these different committees moving forward. The 4th, 5th, and 6th, was in the back seat with behind Councillor Reimer, advising him on speed and road conditions, while we went to the elected officials seminar. The local government learning academy was just an awesome event. The overall message: prudence, 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 and more prudence. I had a really fantastic chance to engage with other civic leaders, Puskupi, Taylor, McBride, Smithers, to see what was working, what wasn't, current and future projects, and as well as relations at various levels. I understand that we are but one people, but there's a current separation between provincial, federal, First Nations. So upcoming, this morning I received express written permission to use the District of Hudson's Hope emergency plan, so that we may not need to reinvent the wheel. We can use whatever template that they use, that we can go ahead moving forward in our emergency plan. And this week, I'm looking forward to, on February 13th, the community forum with some First Nations, Chuchawa, north of Barrier, in the hopes to strengthen our relationship between our communities. And that is my report. I can forward you that, Mr. Young.
Thank you very much, Councillor Torgerson. That's right, it is the local government
Leadership
Academy. Learning, and that's all it is. It's learn, learn, learn. And I was glad to attend and meet, be called a retread by Dr. Gord McIntosh. There were the newly elected, the re-elected, and he looked at me and said, "And the retreads." I facilitated a seminar at Rhodes University some years back where he teaches, and he's the leader there. I'm not going to reiterate the meetings that I attended, that councillors attended as well. However, Regional District of Fraser Fort George, I've been appointed to the 911 Standing Committee, the Environment and Parks, and I'll let you have this, you don't have to write it down, Mr. Young. Environment and Parks Standing Committee, the Sub-Regional Services Standing Committee, the Robson Canoe Sub-Regional Services Standing Committee, and all directors are on the Agricultural Land Use Standing Committee. I also attended the Omanika Beetle Action Coalition, and that's where I gave the copies of the wildfire presentation to you. And the Northern Development Initiative Trust, the Prince George Regional Advisory Council, we had a meeting as well. And I'm really impressed with the NDIT. I attended their reception on the Thursday night and information session last week. And I'm very impressed with what they've been able to accomplish and achieve. I was there when when Premier Campbell gave the $185 million for the Northern Development Initiative Trust. That was in 2005. And since 2005, the NDIT has approved more than $125 million for more than 1,500 projects, which has leveraged other funds and totals approximately $1.2 billion in additional investment in the region. And that's in the North Central region. So I am really impressed with that. They've done an excellent job, and I did comment after their presentation on how proud we were of the competence and efficiency. We also had a meeting following the last Regional District Board meeting. The Mayor of McBride, Loran Martin, and Danielle Allen, Area H Regional District Director, and we met with 4 BC Hydro executives, and I gave a copy of a BC Hydro information sheet to each one of you. Okay? And I was also at Columbia Basin Trust the week before in Cranbrook, and I've been appointed to the Columbia Basin Trust Investment Committee, so that should be very interesting. And they're all happy that they've now got 2 founding board members on the board, back on the board. So, and I shall write that out for you, and so that you don't have to write all that down. Okay, and I think that's probably, I want to add one thing. Our last presentation at the seminar for learning was by a broadcaster who is with the PACE group from Vancouver. And this applies not only to mayors, especially to mayors, but it applies to councillors too. And relations with the media, and what the media will say, regardless of whether you do anything good or bad or anything in between, they're not going to be very favorable. And I see the Valley Sentinel as well as the Rocky Mountain Goat sort of shaking their pen at me. This was President Lyndon B. Johnson. He said, if one morning I walked on top of the water across the Potomac River, the headline that afternoon would read, "The President Can't Swim." So, there you go, councillors, and especially the 2 new ones. It doesn't matter if you do anything right, somebody will always find something. I'll give you a copy of that too.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So now,
Motion to receive.
yes. Motion to receive Blanchette and Salt. And any discussion or questions? No? All in favor? Carried. New business, 12.1. And that the Building Canada Fund, Small Communities Fund grant application. So, we want this for receipt and discussion?
Correct.
Okay, motion to receive. Blanchette and Torgerson. Discussion. Questions? Yes, Councillor Salt?
How much do we have in our sewer surplus right now?
Approximately 100,000. We do have funds appropriate to this expenditure.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Torgerson?
These grants, are they available to communities that do not have a tangible capital asset management plan?
Yes, as far as our understanding from the grant requirements.
Is it favored that we have a management plan in place for this particular grant?
There are many funds that we would not be eligible for if we didn't have an ICSP. That's a critical component for us.
Okay, anything further? All in favor of receipt? Carried. And Madam Administrator, did you want another resolution to?
Yes, please.
Yes.
We do need this particular resolution
Okay.
on the recommendation.
That council approves support for the village's application to the new Building Canada Fund, Small Communities Fund for the purposes of updating and replacing lift station infrastructure. The resolution commits the village of Valemount to fund 33.3% of the total cost of the project, up to a maximum of $235,000 from general revenues and sewer surplus, subject to approval of the grant request. What is council's wish?
Got it
do what we need to do.
And we require a motion then.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Reimer. Any discussion on this or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Somewhere we have at 12.2. And I'll take a motion to receive this for discussion, and this is with respect to electronic participation at the upcoming Valemount Community Forest meeting. Blanchette and Reimer. And it's open for discussion and questions. Yes.
Madam Chair, the reason that I brought this forward is I was thinking this was more of a Valemount Community Forest meeting. I mean, I know it's a council meeting, but it is a Valemount Community Forest meeting, and the Valemount Community Forest has embedded within its bylaws the provision for electronic
Yes.
communication participation in its meetings.
Okay. Madam Administrator, did you have a comment about that?
Well, the topic of the meeting is
Valemount Community Forest Board appointees.
correct.
Yes.
It is still a council meeting at this point, but that's,
Yes, Blanchette.
Does it
Councillor Blanchette.
qualify as an in-camera meeting, or is it a public meeting?
it will be an closed meeting, but it resides inside of an open meeting.
I understood that this meeting is on February the 16th
Correct,
in the daytime.
correct. And I think we've landed on 3 o'clock.
That's right. Yeah, because Councillor Torgerson and I both have a
Broadband.
4-hour broadband teleconference call. So, does the meeting have to be advertised? Oh. Even though nobody can attend?
That's correct.
The camera.
Who makes these
It's
ridiculous?
for when the media wants to greet us from when we're leaving.
Who wrote that legislation? You know, common sense is at a real premium these days.
Now,
Yes.
well, I
Councillor
understand it
Torgerson.
is a Valemount Community Forest based meeting. We do have embedded in our bylaws, our procedural bylaws. And I'm just wondering if one oversees the other, being the sole shareholder of said corporation? My question to Mr. Young or Madam Administrator.
Yeah.
Or if I can clarify your question, is your question, would our bylaws automatically be applied to the community forest and they wouldn't have the opportunity to create bylaws?
No,
Unless-
my question
No.
is this. We will be sitting in as council, the sole shareholder of that corporation. While the Valemount Community Forest has a provision that allows for electronic participation, we currently do not. As the sole shareholder. So we will be sitting in a meeting of council
That's correct.
to appoint directors on behalf of the corporation that we are the shareholder of.
So as a further point of clarification.
Yes.
We, as a village, we do have a procedural bylaw that is in place which applies procedures for council's meetings. That meeting on the 16th will effectively involve council as meeting as council, not as individual council members, but as a body. The procedures bylaw that we have will apply to that meeting. I've done a little bit of research on this, anticipating this. So 2 things. Under the Roberts Rules of Order, 11th edition revised, when an assembly wishes to do something during a meeting that it cannot do without violating one or more of its regular rules, it can adopt a motion to suspend the rules, interfering with the proposed action, provided that the proposal is not in conflict with the organization's bylaws or constitution. Under the Local Government Act, which further trumps our own procedural rules. A bylaw, in this case, procedure bylaw, under section 124 of the Local Government Act, subsection 3 states that a bylaw under this section must not be amended or repealed and substituted unless the council first gives notice in accordance with section 94, public notice describing the proposed changes in general terms. What this is really about is actual amendments to the procedures bylaw. So, in summary, our current procedures bylaw does not permit electronic participation in the meeting. That is something that we will be looking at in terms of revising the procedures bylaw, but it will not be prepared, certainly in time, by any stretch of the imagination for council to be considering prior to the 16th.
That answers everybody's questions. Councillor Blanchette.
So perhaps we should get this onto the next agenda to get it moving forward, so that the next time this happens for any one of us, the ball will be already rolling.
We are working on it. We've done a great deal of research already in preparation for that.
Okay.
There's a lot to consider, but it's certainly not undoable. But that we are doing that research to provide you guys really good information to base your decisions on.
Well, as an appointee to the Valemount Community Forest, how then can Councillor Reimer give his opinion on the appointment of the board applicants?
At that meeting.
And it doesn't have to be at that meeting. Could he not review the applicants and then just leave his selection with Councillor Torgerson because they're both on there?
The closing is on the 13th noon.
Correct.
Councillor Reimer would then have 3 days to make a educated decision.
An informed decision, and perhaps relay that information to you.
I would
Is
feel
that
more
it?
comfortable relaying it directly to staff.
Okay.
Just
Can that be done? Why not?
See the wheels turning.
Certainly, if Councillor Reimer chooses to provide some commentary in writing, then that information could be shared with, not just with staff, but with all of council. It wouldn't, however, constitute a vote at the meeting. It would provide advice.
Okay. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Let's do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, it could not be considered 1/5
No.
of the decision.
No,
But,
no.
yep.
Okay.
And in the absence of Councillor Reimer, we still will have a quorum at that meeting.
Of course.
And we still will have the ability to appoint.
Of course. Okay. Okay.
Giddy up.
Thank you. While we're on the Valemount Community Forest, Councillor Reimer was out of town working as a notary in Salmon Arm during the last council meeting, and I did comment, Councillor Torgerson was here, that, just like that little comment by Lyndon B. Johnson. So there are comments like that regularly, not exactly like that, but of the same thoughts. That whenever I hear something good about somebody, I make sure that I pass it on. And I just wanted to say that I was on my way to Prince George on the 14th of January. That's when the call came, left a message on my cell phone from President Cynthia Piper of the Valemount Community Forest Board. And she said how pleased she was with Councillors Torgerson and Reimer following their meeting, and she thanked me. She said she was very grateful that I had appointed the two of you. So.
Congratulations, Councillor Reimer.
So I just thought I would pass that on. I just thought I would pass that on. Okay.
So,
Okay. We have a mover
Councillors Blanchette and Reimer.
and Reimer. Okay.
So this is moving of receipt.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Anything further under receipt for discussion or questions or whatever. I think we've resolved our issue. Okay, all in favor of receipt? Carried. Well, we don't need to do anything further with that, do we? Okay, outstanding council resolutions. Staff recommendation that council accepts the list of outstanding previous council resolutions. Motion, please. Torgerson and Salt. Any discussion or any questions? Yes, Councillor Salt?
Recognized by the chair.
Recognized by the chair.
Yes.
Standing corrected.
Nice to see it's gotten shorter,
Yes.
even
Okay.
since the last meeting. So good work, staff.
Okay.
Obviously been working hard on it.
Yes, it's a lot shorter, isn't it? Councillor Torgerson, what did you want to add?
I'd like to mirror Councillor Salt's comment that it pleases me to see this getting shorter and shorter.
Okay, good. Councillors Blanchette and Reimer, anything?
We're good.
You're good? Always good. Yes, always good. Okay, thank you, Madam Administrator. I've got my copy here. So thank you. If there's no further discussion on this, all in favor? Carried. Now we go on to the calendar of events. There's no motion required for receipt. It's there for information. And 15.1, public comments. Are there any public comments? Does anybody wish to say anything? I guess not this.
We will never accuse you of walking on water.
I might not be able to swim.
Or swim.
Or swim, or not being able to swim. So, don't be too surprised if you see the councillors out there trying to see if it would work if they walked on water. Okay. Thank you.
There certainly is enough water laying around to try it on.
Of course. All right, we need recommendation that council proceed to an in-camera council meeting for consideration of one item per section 91 of the community charter. And Blanchette and Salt. Okay, all in favor? Carried.